Welcome to Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam, where we tackle the challenges of raising teenagers without the drama. I'm your host, Dr. Cam. Let's get on with the show. Did you know that over 1.7 million adolescents aged 12 to 17 in the U.S. have a substance use disorder? It's a staggering statistic that underscores the critical need for effective interventions and support systems for our teens. As parents, it's essential to equip ourselves with the knowledge and tools to navigate this complex issue. That's why I'm thrilled to have Dr. Louise Stanger with us today. She is a renowned family systems coach, interventionist, and trailblazer in the field of behavioral health and addiction treatments. Dr. Louise is going to provide us with invaluable insights and actionable steps to effectively intervene and support our teens. Dr. Louise, welcome to the show.
Oh, welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too.
Greetings from California to Virginia.
Yeah, so jealous. So jealous. It's always so beautiful there.
Well, now we have a little liquid sunshine, so don't be so
liquid? Okay. It still works. It still works. They need rain out there, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us first, how did you get into working on interventions in addictive behavior?
Oh my gosh, it's a great story, and I would invite you to take a look at my memoir, which is called Falling Up, a Memoir of Renewal. I was born on a fault line of trauma, experiencing over 7 sudden deaths, growing up in a family beset with alcohol, mental health, and other things. And as a young social worker, I was a professor. I was very lucky. My undergraduate degree is from out where you are, University of Pittsburgh. My master's was from then at San Diego State College. And while I was there, I was very fortunate enough to be a pretty decent fundraiser, but also had a real interest in mental health and substance abuse. So I had the opportunity to teach the first graduate seminar in the history when the law said that social workers, MFT, psychologists needed a course in alcohol and other drugs. And at that time, just to put it in history, Betty Ford was just starting, and people would travel from San Diego over to the desert. And one day, you asked about interventions. One day, a very tall, stately gentleman by the name of Dr. Frank Picard came into my classroom. Dr. Picard was at that time head of Springbrook, which is in Oregon. And he wrote a book in opposition to his friend who wrote I'll Quit Tomorrow. He wrote a book called Family Intervention. When he spoke, I had a lot of experience with sudden death, grief and loss. I had worked as an ER social worker, so I'm great with crisis. Well, he really, I don't know what my class did, but my heart stopped. And he just really described my family. And I was lucky enough to learn from one of the founders, like Vern Johnson and himself. And I said, I can do this. And so on the side, I did interventions, but I later changed them to invitations to change.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm probably the only person, I am the only person who has actually a textbook that was commissioned by Routledge, which is a big textbook house. To talk about it, and I'm sort of infamous for family mapping. But for me, it was really sort of a natural kind of thing. And what I really wanted to do was honor someone who may be the identified loved one, who may be assessed with an alcohol or mental health problem, but also understand that we have to move the entire family to change, because nothing is going to change until everybody changes.
That is so true, especially when we're addressing kids, right?
Yes.
When we're addressing teenagers who are growing up within the family system, we can't expect them to change without everything changing around them. So tell us a little bit first on, is this a problem right now, and why is this a problem with teenage addiction, and what are teens most addicted to right now? What are the biggest concerns for parents?
Well, that's a great question. I think COVID did everybody in. And so we have anxiety and depression and substance abuse at an all-time high. Most likely a teen is using cannabis, which is not your grandmother's cannabis or anybody else. It's very high potency. It can be laced with fentanyl, and people tend to not understand how it can change brain chemistry. But I think cannabis and alcohol are still the major. Obviously, there's other pills and everything else, but when we're talking about teens, and what's really important to know with teens is I'm lucky. I work with a group out of New York called Youth Prevention Mentors, which is all over the world. And what we try and do is treatment without walls. I'm happy to explain that if that's what you want.
I would love that, because I think when you say cannabis and you say alcohol, the kids I talk to, many of them, most of them, do not see a problem with it. Their whole perception is everyone's doing it. It's okay. Mom and dad are overreacting. What do you say to that attitude?
Well, I love that question, but one of the things we have to take a place is just how is this affecting them in terms of school, in terms of relationships, in terms of interaction. And one of the things when we talk about treatment with walls, we're not just talking about taking a look at the identified loved one, which is that teen that's experiencing mental, and then usually there's also a mental health crisis or an executive functioning crisis, meaning they're having difficulty with school, math, etc. And this is a way in which they have learned to solve their problems. And so it is challenging because everybody else is doing it, but in what way is this doing more harm than good? And that's really the way in. Parents call us when their hearts are breaking, when they've nagged, pleaded, scolded, they have kids hidden behind doors, they're not going to school, they are not focused, and they want to know what to do and how to help them. And so it's really a whole system approach. If a lot of times people call and say, we want our kid to go away. We want them
go fix them.
There.
Yeah.
But
we'll send them home, you fix them.
I think the approach first is to see, can we solve this problem? Can we deal with this problem within the home? That means that everybody has sort of a stakeholder thing. It also avoids in the beginning the trauma of being sent away and being identified as the problem. And everybody else is okay because, and I'm not saying that behavioral health is not necessary and very important, because I work with a lot of different behavioral health centers across the country. But when you're talking about a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old, can we solve this problem within the trajectory of the home so that they can thrive and change and they don't have to be labeled as such as the problem? And it does take a lot of work, and we work by putting in what we call an accountability wellness mentor. And that's someone a little bit older, not someone old like me. I'm the family whisperer, and having them join up with the young person. Okay. And I work with the family. We also have a wonderful psychiatrist from New York, Dr. Rami Kaminsky, who works also, has the ability to work across state lines, or will work with another therapist that happens to be through the family, and really put together scaffolding that helps everybody matter and also helps everybody change what they're doing and how they're acting.
So let's break this down for parents, because I know there's a lot listening that have found cannabis on their kids, or they know they're drinking. They've already done the nagging. They've already done the lecture. They've already set the boundaries. They've already done consequences. Nothing is working. What do we do now? Where do we start?
Well, I think we have to start with, are they really doing the boundaries? A lot of times people, and they also scream and yell, and then they slam the door, and then they don't follow through. So it's really and I want to honor all the parents because it's so frustrating, but developing a change agreement. And the mantra for a change agreement from parents is, I love you and I care about you. I'm only going to support you in health and wellness. That means maybe I have to get up for school. I have to go do this. I have to do that. I have to meet with my mentor. I have to meet with the counselor. At the same time, the young person has a voice. And what leverage do you really have for them to move forward? Obviously, if things are completely out of control, then maybe we do consider behavioral health, but not until we have a change agreement that's really discussed together in person and captures both sides. Because also it may be that, parents also have to do some work. They may have to, talk to someone like me. They may choose to go to a support group. They may choose to learn, or they may choose even to spend time. A lot of times people will yell, my father never spends any time with me, because they're really busy or they have other children. So it's even about spending that time and trying, and also learning how to talk in a way that is strength-based and compassionate, not yelling and screaming. So I love you.
Help us with that. Help us with that real quick. So we notice this, we've done the yelling and everything else. We want to change the way we're approaching this. Give us even a script. What can we now say to our teenager who is using cannabis and wants to use it, has no desire to stop? What do we say to start changing the direction?
So first of all, you have to understand who's paying for the cannabis. Okay? Because the parents are paying for it, unless they're independently wealthy and have a trust fund. So you can say, hey, Johnny, Sally, I love you and I care about you. And this is not working for me. So I'm not, last night when you came in light, I felt scared, angry, befuddled, and etc. We're going to be changing our behaviors, and, no longer will you be getting money for this. I mean, it has to start somewhere with some behavioral change, and you have to stop and think, where are the kids getting this? Where did they get their income? The phone is also a direct out to a drug dealer. Many parents will tell me they don't want to give up the phone. Why? Because there's a tracker. I know where Johnny is, even though Johnny never calls me, or Sally is. Sally never calls me. So you have to take a look and say, what are you willing to do and what are you willing not to do?
Right. So you're talking about, stopping the money flow, stopping the phone. Is this addressing the actual problem of why they're smoking, or do we need to get to that too? Because these kids are clever. They're going to find a way anyway.
Sure, but that's the great way of using a mentor.
Okay.
And really, Youth Prevention Mentor combines two major NIH and IAAA grants I had when I was a university professor. One was called, and it became sort of famous, called Student to Student. And the idea was you could reduce risk, and maybe it's harm reduction risk, by having students, peers, mentor peers. The other big grant I had was a parent-based intervention to reduce problematic behaviors. So you combine the two. Johnny or Sally needs someone to look up to, someone that may have faced adversity like they did and now is on the other side, so that they can learn that they're okay, that they're not going to be made fun of by their peers, and they can also find other solutions. I think last year I had the privilege of working with a high school senior who did other things besides just smoke pot, but did some cutting, did some pill taking and everything, and was actually a super bright student, but was flunking school. Okay. Putting a mentor with her gave her the privilege of joining up. She also had maybe some gender fluidity. And through that peer mentor, and also working with the family, because the family wanted to send her away.
Yeah.
and working. She was able, for her, she found joy in actually a 12-step meeting where a college sophomore became her mentor there, as well as the other wellness mentor. At the same time, the parents worked hard on their end. Obviously, school had to be done, and she's a very successful freshman this
Hmm.
year in college. We have had other high school seniors who did have to, for example, we have another one who's an honor student right now in college, but he did end up going to a behavioral healthcare center. Why? Because
Okay.
his cannabis use was so great, he ended into a substance-induced psychosis, cracked a window, and everything. And
Yeah.
following that, because there was no other, he had to be hospitalized for
Mm.
a substance-induced psychosis, and then after that, had depression, mental health, went to a really good facility that did very well with him. And after he left, he had a wellness mentor with him that even he's had two different ones. One just functions on executive functioning, and he's an honor student right now,
So
doing
let
really
me let
well.
me ask you. There's kind of two pieces I want to get to. The first one is you're saying one of the best solutions is finding our kids a mentor. How do we find
Well,
our
but finding the right kind of mentor.
finding the right, right,
It's not,
exactly.
it's
So
not
how do you find that?
Well,
And
you
how
can
do you
give me a call. You really need someone who has been trained in this
Mhm.
and is on the other side of adversity, and really able to join up. But don't forget, it's just not the mentor, it's the whole system. There has to be someone that also works with the family.
Right.
You're
So
not just,
when we talk about the family, what are some of the key things and maybe just the top key things that parents learn to do differently that supports their kids?
so parents learn to speak differently. I have a book, Addiction
Mhm.
in the Family, Helping Families Navigate Challenges, Emotions, and in recovery, and I don't get residuals from it, but it's been a bestseller. But it can teach different ways to language. Like, I love you, I care about you, I'm really supporting you in health and wellness. Last night, setting up change agreements.
Mm.
Also, changing the whole trajectory of what is going on in the home, but you need some help with that.
Okay.
Going to the appropriate self support groups if you want to do that. Being willing to take a look at also taking care of yourself, because most of
Mm.
the time, parents who worry about kids do not take care of themselves. So I invite parents, which changes also the trajectory, to take care of themselves at least 9 times a week, physically, emotionally, and consistent with their values or spiritually.
Yeah.
Why? Because they've been so overly focused. The other thing is teaching them a new way to language, and to also be open and say, hey, this is a family issue. And I'm open also
Mm.
to taking a look at what I've done, and also taking a look at, say, what happened in my life. Because many
Yeah.
families grew up with other things going on. So this may be cross generational, it may be normative, and it is a lot of hard work. But I think you can learn how to language. I think you can learn how to set a healthy boundary. And I think you can learn how to celebrate yourself and communicate clearly.
I love that you said, and I just want to emphasize that this is the family issue because so many times it becomes the kid's issue. The kid needs to fix it. The kid's doing this wrong. Everything is about the kid fixing themselves. And it's too much. And the kid is
Mhm.
doing this in the first place because they're already overwhelmed and it's a coping skill. So to pile that on them, they're just going to need more coping skills and that's their go-to. So we're actually kind of pushing them into that. So when it says this is a family systems problem, now they have support. Now you are as invested in finding a solution as they are, and we're in this together. And I love that whole idea of it.
Yeah.
How do we get there if we're feeling guilt or we're feeling like it's really not our fault? It's our kids' fault and who they're being friends with.
Well, I start out by doing a family map with families. And I interview everybody individually because you want to be able to join up with this person, the individual who is the parent, or maybe they're a single parent, maybe, there's all kinds of things. They could be widowed, they could be divorced, they could be
Mm-hmm.
working, or they could be double, and really listen to their story and then honor them, because I give every family I work with something that once was given to me. And I'm so grateful that a social worker, Ann, once said to me, Louise, you did the best you could do with the resources you have.
Mm-hmm.
And now maybe we can learn to do something a little bit different.
I love that.
Because I think you have to start out by honoring people, by starting where they are, not where maybe you think they can go, and allowing them to be heroic, because parents are heroic.
What do you mean by allowing them to be heroic? I love the sound of it.
Creating a safe space where they can interact, where they can learn, and where they can feel worth. Because somehow or other, most parents do feel like, oh, what did I do? How did I do this? How did it happen? And allowing them the space to say, you did the best you could do with the resources. Let's unpack who you are. Let's honor you. And maybe there's something we can do a little differently. And if Johnny or Sally needs treatment, we'll do that. But let's first see if we can do this.
Okay.
Let's first see how this will work.
In the short term, while we're trying to get the support we need, we're trying to find the right youth mentor, we're trying to find the right behavioral health support, what can parents do to start building that relationship and also to keep their kids as safe as possible in that interim?
Well, I'm losing your face a little bit, but what they can do is begin to talk, begin to communicate, begin to share, and say, hey, I feel, even if I said, I feel scared, I'm not too sure where we're headed. So let's find a solution together. This isn't working for me. Parents are parents, so they have to be the adult in the situation and not be afraid. A lot of parents I work with, they will tell me they're afraid. And what they're most afraid of is losing that child says they hate me. That child doesn't love me. That's hogwash. I mean, that really is. They depend on you, and you have to take a look at and say, I'm the adult, not the child in this. I know there's a whole school of thought on gentle parenting. There's a whole school of thought, I'm older. In what way are we doing things to help our kids? We don't have to be their best friend. I mean, that's not our role. Our role is to set some safety things, to have safety so they can, and also give them space so they can experience the consequences of their behavior.
Yeah.
And do that. So it's a matter of, and that's what I mean by being heroic. It's being willing to be a parent. It's being willing to be vulnerable. It's also being willing to make amends. Hey, I love you and I care about you, and I got to apologize to you. I just kept looking the other way, and I kept giving you money. I'm not able to do that anymore because I really love you so much. So we're gonna do this together. No one's gonna like it because no one likes limits, but you're gonna have to be able to help develop limits. And then talking with other parents that have also, it's really good for you also to have a mentor, another parent who's come on the other side. I mean, obviously there's Al-Anon for parents, there's CODA for parents, and then there's wonderful, wonderful Jerry Moe, who, if you know, who's developed the children's program at the original children's program, Betty Ford, Sesame Street things. He has a wealth of material, which is great to talk about children. And also, I do love, if you are going to therapy and you say your child has a problem, that therapist also sees you. That's just not the kid that's identified as the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is one of the biggest messages or takeaways I'm getting from this conversation right now, right? It is the entire family issue that we've
Yeah.
got to address. And so we're
Mhm.
all going to do what we can in our part in it. Um, Dr. Stanger, what is kind of one key, or because we just talked about that takeaway, but what is maybe one action item parents can take right after they've listened to this episode if they know that their kids are using substances?
Well, I guess the one key is find out as much information as you can. Talk to someone else who is also maybe a parent coach or a parent therapist or a parent professional, and begin to work out, what am I willing to support, what am I not, and how am I
Mm,
going to address this with my child in a caring, strength-based way,
yeah.
and using the language that I'm suggesting.
Yeah. The caring and the strength based, I think, is so important because we talk about how difficult it is for us to set limits sometimes, or, set those boundaries. And it's difficult to have our kids mad at us and saying things like, I hate you and I'm angry at you. And I think what's important with what you're saying is we can set those limits and boundaries and still be kind and still be loving, but still be firm at the same time. So we don't have
Mhm.
to be mean about it, and to be able to just say, okay, I'm going to put on my armor. They're going to be mad. It's not that they hate me. They hate the process. They hate how they're feeling right now. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm going to steel up because I have to bear that in order for them to get through it.
And I
It's a
have to
hard
do
thing.
that because I'm sort of the adult, and I want them to really flourish. I mean, we had
Yeah.
a family one time that they didn't know what to do, and the sweetest family in the world. But the young person locked themselves in their room
Mm-hmm.
and just smoked away. And basically, the act of courage they had to do was take the door off of the room and
Mm-hmm.
said things, and stop giving endless amounts of whatever,
Yeah.
of money, and not being afraid that this person would not love them.
Yeah.
And it's really that fear, like this person's going to hate me, but they don't hate you. They're struggling, and their
Yeah.
brain is not the brain does not develop till age 26. So if you have a 15-year-old out using, their brain is impaired, and they might be more
Yeah.
like a 10-year-old. So we have to consider. And then the other thing is, it's really helpful for parents just to unpack their own usages,
Yeah.
because and also the generational usages of what does this mean, and what was okay, and what was okay. And it's really like and also being able to roll with the resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to be abstinent in a day, sorry,
Yeah.
especially not a young person. But how do we roll with that? How do we allow for success? What does success look like? Success may be looking at, getting up, brushing your teeth, going to school, and doing your homework at least 3 times a week, and
Right.
maybe doing something else. And so being able to roll with that and understand that you're also changing.
Yeah. Dr. Stanger, how do people find you if they'd like to work with you?
Oh, okay. It's really easy. Well, there's 2 different websites you can find me on. One is Youth Prevention Mentors, which I talked about just now, which I'm Director of Family Programming, which talks a lot about treatment without walls. My other one is like a professor's website, and it's called All About Interventions, and it's got a plethora of articles. Everything is all free on there, and I do contribute to Forbes and USA Today. The other thing is this little thing. I pick
Yeah.
up my own phone. My phone number is 619-507-1699. You don't
You're
get,
brave.
huh? Well, people call me and their hearts are hurting.
Oh,
And I've always been of the ilk that I work in a bespoke concierge fashion. I'm not great for everybody, but I know so many people, and I speak in so many places across the world that I'm a good person to give for a referral.
I love
But
that.
I do believe in picking up my own phone because I don't know, I don't like answer issues. I mean, obviously, if I'm busy, like speaking to you, I can pick up my phone. But I think it's that personal kind of touch,
I love
to
that.
honor somebody because they're really struggling. They don't know what to do. And I guess that's just the way I choose to be.
That is beautiful. Dr. Sanger, I'm so grateful that you could join us today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And most people call me Dr. Louise.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dr. Louise,
Okay,
just like I
that's
go by
okay.
Dr.
You like
Cam.
it used to be like if you didn't, it just. But I'm so glad you're doing this, and I'm so honored. And I do have 3 books. One, Addiction in the Family: Helping Families Navigate Challenges, Emotions, and Recovery. I think it's a great primer. I have a textbook, and then if you wanted to really learn a little bit about me, I'm Falling Up. But I have on my website over 500 blogs. There might be
Perfect.
something that interests you.
Yeah, we'll link to it in the show notes so everyone can find you. Thanks again.
Well, thank you. Such an honor to be with you, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring change and keep speaking to the world. I hope someday to meet you in person.
That would be beautiful. And that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam. Don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss a single episode, and share the love by passing this on to a friend. Until next time, keep making a positive impact in your teen's life.